Hey friends, so I am selling a bunch of books on Pango Books, which if you've never heard of it, this is what the little app logo looks like. And I've actually sold a couple books on there so far, but I'm not sure many people know about it or use it. So if you don't, feel free to start using it, make an account, start looking at used books, because a lot of people sell books on there for $5, including me. So I decided, because I have this little Pango bookstore and I want to sell some books that I'm not reading or I don't have a need for, so I just decided to make a video that was all the books that I am selling. They're in stacks right next to me, but you can't see them yet. So let's get into it. Honestly, the first stack is a little boring because I am a college graduate, so these are some of the textbooks that I used and I thought that I was gonna keep because they were from my English classes and everything, but I decided not to keep them. I don't think I'll ever look back at them, but some of them were also good reads. Like this is Making Shapely Fiction, which if you haven't heard of it, it is just talking about like how to write fiction basically. So this one was a pretty good one. The Broadview Anthology of Short Fiction. This is a collection of really popular and famous short stories. And then the Critical Theory textbook, and this is legit. So if you need any of these textbooks, or you're an English major and you want to read any of them, or you're just interested in them, feel free. And then at a podcast conference, I actually got this one from a podcaster like at the conference, and they were just giving this book away and it was like all over the hotel, so I couldn't say no to the lady. Like I felt too bad saying no, and then I didn't want to just leave it at the hotel because there were stacks of these books just randomly spread out everywhere. But it's basically about how to be a self-publisher and like write your own book and self-publish it. I'm not interested in that. I would like to write my own book at some point, but I don't want to self-publish it. I want to be published. So I was like, maybe I'll read this at some point. Like maybe I will go the self-publishing route. I don't know, but I just don't think I'll ever read this book. So I'm selling this one. This one is a memoir, Warriors Don't Cry, that I'm pretty sure I had to read for a class, but if not, I might have just read this for fun. It was actually pretty good. It's about Little Rock High School and the group of kids that were going in to kind of infiltrate this segregated school after Brown versus the Board of Education. So if you need a good read, if you like historical memoirs, I would recommend this one. And then this is a graphic novel, The War Within These Walls. I actually took a world literature class and had to buy this for that class. We never got around to reading it, but it's a super short, just little graphic novel. So I decided to read it on my own at one point and was actually quite impressed because I learned a lot. I learned a part of history that I actually didn't know. So it was a fun, quick read. I would recommend if you're really interested in World War II, if you like graphic novels, if you like history, this one is a good one for you. I read The Girl on the Train this past October and it was a pretty good thriller. Like it was a good little thriller read, but not worth keeping, and I don't like the size of this book. Like it's another little small chapter book. So I decided to sell this one because I liked it, but I don't really like the book. I don't think I'll ever reread it. Like with thrillers, I'm just not really the type that would want to reread them because I feel like once I know the storyline, I'm like, meh, I don't think I need to read it again. Like I know what that book is gonna have in it. So that is why I decided to sell this one. If you like a good thriller with a plot twist, then I would recommend it. And if you want to see the video that I read it in, then check out this video. Follow Me Back was another little thriller. This one is YA and it has to do with like social media and messaging and this famous star and then this like girl that's obsessed with him, but there's a lot of stuff that's happening and there's a plot twist at the end. So this one is a good YA thriller if you want to stock up on your thrillers for October. And also I believe it's in the same video as when I read The Girl on the Train, but if not, then check out this video if you want to see me reading it and my reaction, and if you're interested in reading this book. Okay, The Lying Game is an oldie but a goodie. I went through my old books that I had like at my mom's house from when I still lived there, and if you loved Pretty Little Liars, this is actually by the same author. It was also a TV show on its own. I believe the TV show only had 1 or 2 seasons. It was like a CW drama right before Pretty Little Liars, or maybe after Pretty Little Liars, I don't remember, but it was a good book. I didn't want to read like all of them. So for this series, I actually only read the first book and the last book, so I know what happens. And I read the last book from the library, so I don't have the series or anything, and I just didn't need to keep the first book. But if you're in the mood to get into a good 2010 thriller series with Pretty Little Liar vibes, I would recommend The Lying Game. Nameless, I also read in a video, so if you want to check out my reaction in the reading vlog for that, it is this video. But it's a good little kind of fun fantasy read with stuff about like a fantasy mafia family, and it's a YA read, so if you need a good YA fantasy, I would recommend. It's also a twist on Snow White, so the story is basically inspired by Snow White and like different elements of the Snow White story. So if you like fairy tales, if you want a series, if you want romance, if you want fantasy, then I would recommend this one. You may have heard about this book. Funny story, it was actually a gift from my aunt, and I believe she found it at Dollar Tree before it like blew up and became like a known romance book. So it's Emergency Contact, and honestly, it was just a fun little romance read. And basically, Penny and Sam meet over texting, I believe, or like they meet in person and then they start texting. And it's just a cute little romance. I read it quite a bit ago, so I don't remember it that well. It wasn't worth like reading again, I don't think, but if you want a fun little romance or you've heard about this book, I believe I'm selling it for like $5 or maybe even cheaper, so go check that out if you're interested. I have 2 stacks left, you guys. I have a nonfiction stack and then probably my most popular fiction books, maybe like that stack to read. So this is the nonfiction pile. If you're a nonfiction reader, stay tuned. First of all, I'm doing a bundle of all of Rachel Hollis's books. So Girl Stop Apologizing, Girl Wash Your Face, and Didn't See That Coming. I used to be a huge fan of Rachel Hollis, and then she got canceled, and I don't know if she's still canceled. I know I unfollowed her and I just haven't like kept up with her life, but what made me really sad was her and her husband, like during COVID, decided to get a divorce, and I'm not mad that she got a divorce or anything. I don't like get mad at people about that, but it was just more heartbreaking, I think, because in her books she talks about like when they were dating and being together and all those things, and so I think it would be hard to know that she's divorced and then try to reread some of these where she's like talking about her husband and like their team and how they are, and it just kind of feels like a lie now. Like I'm like, it's not exactly true anymore. And so these books meant a lot to me when I first read them. There's probably some highlights in each of these, and there were parts of her story that I really related to, and it was kind of hard to decide to get rid of these, but I don't think that I would ever read them again for that reason. But if you want to check them out, I have all 3 for sale. So they're all hardcovers, all like nice books, a little bit highlighted, but other than that in pretty good condition. So check them out. This book also meant a lot to me when I was in, I think, high school and college. I think I read this book twice. I might have only read it once. I don't remember. But if you know Karen Kingsbury, this book is actually by her daughter and her husband, so Kelsey and Kyle Kupecki. And I used to be obsessed with them because I read the Bailey Flanagan series by Karen Kingsbury, and I was like, I love Bailey. And Bailey is based on her daughter, Kelsey. So I really liked this one. I really like the love story between Kelsey and her husband. But I'm married now, so I don't need a book about like waiting for your man and like the kind of man to look for and everything. Like, this one is definitely for the single girl who's in the midst of dating and needs a good like little romance story and encouragement about being a single woman. And it might be a little old-fashioned, but the cover is so cute, and this book meant a lot to me. So if you're in that demographic, I would recommend. These last 2 are just educational Christian nonfiction books, Make Work Matter and Kingdom Calling. I've read like a chapter of both of these books and they're brand new, untouched, so I can't speak too much about them. I had them for a program that I was in the last year, and I mean the chapters of them that I read were good, but I'm just not interested in reading the whole thing. I'm not a big nonfiction person. Like, I'm trying to be, but when it's educational nonfiction, I'm kind of like, meh. So if you want to read them or check them out, then check them out on my Pango. Okay friends, final stack. So first things first, I have Yes, No, Maybe So. It's a cute little YA romance and I did like it. It was entertaining. I had it on my TBR for a long time when I finally decided to read it. And it's cute. It has like a lot of political things happening because they're actually, the main characters are like knocking on doors and trying to get support for a councilman or something, or mayor for their town. I can't remember, but something like that. And it was just a cute little YA romance. So if that's up your alley and that's what you want to read, I would recommend this one. The Art of Holding On and Letting Go. I bought this at a used bookstore. Don't remember it at all. Don't remember what it's about, but I believe the author is from Michigan, so that's pretty cool because I live in Michigan. And when I bought this, it is a signed copy from 2016. So if you know this author or this book and you're a fan, this is a signed copy. I did read it, but I read it a long time ago when I first bought it and I don't remember it that well. So I am selling it because it just doesn't really mean that much to me, and I read it and it didn't like stick with me. But if you're interested, then I would recommend. This is a 2-for-1 book. It is 2 books in one, and it is just a duology. Basically, it's a time traveling like fiction novel about the same characters, but 2 different versions of the characters from 2 different worlds, and they come together and it's basically like a romance in all of these different timelines. So I thought it was cool. It was a fun little read. I think it's cool that it's both books in one, and that's kind of why I bought it in the first place. But it's just a cool little time travel romance and you have both books in one. Okay, I'm not even gonna lie, I hated this book so much. This one is in my books that I read at Dollar Tree. If you haven't watched that video, go ahead and watch it right now. But I didn't even finish this book. I only read maybe like the first like 2 parts, and all of the reviews talked about how gross and twisted and just sick that this book gets. So I decided not to keep reading it. It is a nice like hardcover edition of this book, but I hated it. So I have a hard time recommending it. If you are intrigued or this book sounds like something you would like, it's basically about 4 best friends that come together in college and like do life together, and it takes the place, I think it starts when they're in college together and then it kind of goes until they're like married and having kids and older. So this book spans a lot of their lives together, and if that sounds like something you want, then feel free to read it. It has a little bit of Pretty Little Liar vibes where each character, it's basically split into 4 parts, and each character makes a major mistake and they are haunted by it, and I think the girls know, but I don't remember. So some of the mistakes are just pretty gross, but that's all I'll say about this one. If you're intrigued, please buy it from me so I can get rid of this book because I did not like it. And then finally, I have a copy of Fourth Wing that I actually have the holiday edition of Fourth Wing, so I didn't feel like I needed both on my shelf because this one is just like the regular version of it. And I did read this version, but it is like in perfect condition, and I do think it's just a nice book. Like, the cover is really pretty, but the holiday edition is pretty cool. So if you've been wanting to buy a copy of Fourth Wing, this one is basically brand new, and I would recommend Fourth Wing. I have 1 and 2. I've read them both. I loved them. If you haven't seen the reading vlogs of me reading Fourth Wing or Iron Flame, the second one, then these are those. Go check them out. But if you need a good just Fourth Wing read, then I would recommend getting this book and buying it from me because it's pretty cheap, but it is going like crazy on Pango, which is crazy. Some of them are so expensive, but mine is not because this is just a normal hardcover edition. But thanks for watching, friends. If any of these books caught your eye, then please go buy them from me. And just be sure to check out Pango and maybe sell some books that you have that you don't want anymore, or maybe go shopping on Pango and get some books that you've been wanting for really cheap. Last summer, I bought a couple based off of money that I had like sold for my books, and they were all in great condition, and I read them all, had no issues, got them all those things. So if you need some new books, go check out Pango. And thank you guys so much for watching. Maybe buy some books from me. Bye!